I always laugh. I mean, I've been coming to Gettysburg since 74, and it always struck me, and I've told some people, if the Army of Northern Virginia would have bought some other troops but sharpshooters, they might have won, because all you hear about, Reynolds is killed by a sharpshooter. Just go down the line. Who, where's the rest of the guys? Send all my sharpshooters.
Only sharpshooters can take out important people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need a sharpshooter here right now. Sharpshooter on aisle 3.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios, you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg. And today we have a first-timer on the show, but he's not in any way new to the Civil War field, the great Phil Spaugy. Welcome, Phil.
Good afternoon, Matt. How are you today?
Good. I'm excited to have you on. When I saw your name on the schedule, I said, "Oh, this will be fun."
Yeah, it will be fun. I've watched my partner Jim Hessler a bunch on his show. And,
that's right.
I don't know if I'll be up to his professional smoothness. There's only one Jim Hessler.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But practice makes perfect. So here's your first attempt at it.
That's
right?
Good, yeah.
We're talking about small arms at Gettysburg today.
Yep.
And that's going to encompass a bunch of different things. And of course, for those of you who don't know, small arms mean not artillery, is right?
Exactly.
Basically is what we're talking about. So pistols, carbines, rifles, and stuff like that, muskets. And it wasn't that everybody here had all the same firearm. It varied.
It sure did.
So go into that. Go ahead. Tell us about.
Well, I mean, you can start with the two basic types of infantry firearms, which is going to be the rifle-musket or smoothbore musket.
Mm-hmm.
The rifle-musket usually fired either the 54 caliber or 57 caliber in the case of Enfield, or 58 caliber Pritchett or Burton ball. Burton being the American name of the French mini ball, which I prefer to use.
Which one do you prefer to use, Mini or Burton?
Burton. Yeah. It's my lifelong passion to change Civil War history, so everyone says Burton ball.
Well, maybe now people will start.
Sort of like going after that windmill. But anyhow, so, you got those three basic calibers that you saw in use at the Battle of Gettysburg with both sides. The smoothbore was a 69 caliber round, which fired a 64 caliber round ball and 331 caliber buckshot round two. And then some of the North Carolina troops had with their smoothbores, they actually had a slug, almost like a shotgun slug. I think it was called a Nestler ball. They have found some in Dean Thomas's books. You'll see some examples. So
how's that spelled? N-E-S-S?
Nesler, I believe. Going off the top of my head.
Okay.
So but that didn't see wide use, but it was out there. So
it's two S's, but
okay, good.
Yeah,
There you go.
But yeah.
So those are your basic calibers that were used. For instance, the 61 Springfield Rifle-Musket would be a 58 caliber. The Enfield, going back over this again, would either be a 58 or 5.77 caliber, and the Austrian Lorenz 54 or 58, and the Mississippi rifle, which only the 45th New York had at Gettysburg, again, were all 54 calibers.
So the Lorenz, let's go into that because the Iron Brigade had that, right?
Some of the regiments did, and that I'm glad we start here because the Lorenz sometimes gets a little bit it's a second-class arm. And people will say, oh, the Austrian Lorenz, it wasn't the Springfield. And, when you look at the work that the two regiments, which are the 2nd Wisconsin and the 7th Wisconsin, had Lorenzes, and you look at the work they did from the beginning of the war, we can go up to Gainesville, which is the proper name of the Battle of Browner's Farm, and you can go South Mountain and Antietam and on. With those Lorenzes, they did good work with those guns.
So when we were down at Fort Shenandoah with the shooting, what do we have a name for that event, or was it just a shoot, or what?
That is something that we started I actually started it, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago, with what we wanted to do in the SSA is to bring in people like yourself and writers, okay, magazine writers, authors like Jim, and who've never really handled a Civil War firearm. I think it's an important component of anybody writing about the war needs to handle the firearm.
Yeah.
Have the experience, okay? Obviously, no one's shooting back at you, so you can't have the complete experience,
Right.
but at least you can have the experience. And so that's why we started it to do that.
So, I mean, not to, because that was I believe a Battle of Gettysburg podcast event that we went to there, but I think it's such a great idea to do that. I think not just writers or podcasters or filmmakers or whoever, but anybody who's studying this, I really think should be able to do that. Could we set something up like that where maybe we could do it as a joint thing with Jim and them?
Yeah, I will. Let me talk to our new national commander and see. They've had some questions over this winter about insurance requirements.
I bet.
And so they're trying to figure out the best way to incorporate that deal. And we're supposed to talk about it at this Nationals. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous. It is a tremendous benefit to those people, and especially the different types of firearms you can handle.
Well, and so when we were there, I think I sampled everything. I shot it. I didn't shoot the pistols because I have them, and I already know what that's like. But I always wanted to fire a Henry. And
everybody wants to shoot a Henry.
Yeah, because they're so cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful gun.
Yeah.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with it for some reason, but with the Lorenz, I couldn't miss.
It's a good firearm.
Well, right. And so my preconceived notion of it from what I've read or seen or heard people saying was that the Lorenz, it's not that great. Like you just said, second-class gun. But I did better than that than I did with the Springfield or the Enfield.
I like to say, we go west, God forbid, across the mountains into the great unknown, and where I spend most of my time. And you can look at the armies out there. In fact, the Army of Tennessee, I believe, the Confederate Army of Tennessee, in 1864, I bet you they had either 40 or 50% Lorenzes in their arms. So, and of course, the Federal Army had a lot of them too, until late 63, 64. So, yeah, I mean, it's an important firearm. It's an important part of the Civil War firearm history.
I actually kind of liked it better. I liked the feel of it. I liked how easy it was for me to hit what I was aiming at. And yeah, I liked it. 6 Questions Lentz, the one and only 6 Questions Lentz, said he went last fall, and he said it was really cool. And he did well with the Sharps carbine and the Austrian Lorenz.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
There you go. My favorite, though, was firing the cannon. That was, I've always wanted to do that.
And obviously a pitch for them is to say our Nationals are this weekend at a range north of Winchester off 522. Saturday afternoon, starting about noon, will be the artillery match. It runs all afternoon, probably plus 30 guns. Okay, rifle and smoothbore. And yeah, I mean, it's our number one spectator event. The morning on Saturday is carbine match, and then the musket match is Sunday morning. But we also have smoothbore match and a Henry match and a Spencer match and a smoothbore pistol match, single shot match now. So we shoot about everything. I mean,
that's a lot of fun.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it sounds fun, and it's a beautiful spot too. It's really neat up there.
Oh, I love going down there. When I left, I was thinking, I haven't missed a national since 1979.
Wow.
Coming to Winchester at least twice a year. And my first year was in 78, but I missed my very first one because that was when I was married in the first administration. And so it was our honeymoon, so that didn't work out so well. But it's a special place, and so many good Civil War historians are members of the NSSA. Yeah. Jerry Coates, who is a longtime member of the NSSA. Rob Hodge, is a member of the NSSA. He'll be at Winchester this weekend.
It's a cool hobby.
Yeah, Dr. Lawrence Babbitts, who writes a lot on the Revolutionary War, is a member of the NSSA. I can go on and on with Joe Bilby is a member of the NSSA. So,
and to your point, actually handling and firing these weapons in some way or another is going to help you tell the story.
It is.
Or understand it or whatever. Yeah. So, okay. So back to the Lorenz and other firearms here at Gettysburg. So we have 2 regiments that are carrying the Lorenz in the whole Army or just the Iron Brigade?
Oh, there's other Lorenz's regiments in the Army of the Potomac. I know there's some 3rd Corps regiments have them.
Okay.
I think the 57th Pennsylvania has them at the Sherfy Farm, if I remember correctly. But so they're scattered throughout the Army of the Potomac.
So you mentioned the 3rd Corps, and I'm a little fuzzy on this, but whatever my fuzziness is might ring a bell for you. I feel like, was there some experimental round that one of the units was carrying?
One of the is it 1st or 2nd New Hampshire was supposed to have some sort of if I remember right, it was a round that was a multi-round, had like 2 or 3 different bullets in it too. The Confederates confused it maybe as an exploding round, or maybe it had even a percussion cap in the nose. I can't really remember, but they were in the Peach Orchard.
But that sounds familiar.
I think that's right. Yeah, they were in the Peach. It wasn't too successful. I mean, it really wasn't.
Obviously not.
But as we talk about, the rifle-musket, when you start studying the Civil War, when you're a young person, and I style myself as a boy of 1961, because I was 7 years old then, and how cool it was to be a 7-year-old in the Centennial back in the days when.
Oh, I bet those were the days. Yeah.
Johnny Reb Cannon into the Christmas tree, and then the War Department took it away from me. But anyhow, it's really always simplified. The Confederates had infields, and the North we had Springfields, and that was it. And then the fascinating variety of arms, both domestic and European, that came in, especially the first 2 years of war. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And the problems of the Ordnance Department, and sometimes regiments had 2 different calibers, and, just trying to figure that out.
It had to be a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
And then you have the experimental ones that are newer technology that's being explored, and not necessarily here, but I mean in the war in general.
Well, yeah, and Spencer, the Spencer, and James Ripley, who's the head of Ordnance, takes a lot of heat because he did not embrace the repeating rifle right away. Okay, but if you think about it, number one, a rifle musket or a smoothbore is simple: lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah, it's
an arm that people are familiar with. Number two, the logistics of the ammunition for a repeating arm. Getting an ammo. I mean, if you look at what Custer's, his 2 regiments that had Spencer rifles, the only Spencers at Gettysburg, okay?
Not Buford.
The only Spencers at Gettysburg.
Right.
If you look how fast they ran through their ammo, going against Witcher and the 34th Virginia and the 14th Virginia out there on the Rummel Farm, I mean, they really did run through the ammo quick, and with good reason too. Yeah. But then you go, okay, we need more ammo. So, and it's always intrigued me how to get the ammunition up to the troops. It really is. Mm-hmm. You talk about the carbines on the first day because obviously for years, I mean, even Shelby Foote said that, they had Spencers. And I picked up a book at the Ohio Civil War Show. It's an old book on the Spencer. And I'm leafing through it, and one of the paragraphs said, at Gettysburg, the North had 35,000 Spencers.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Cool.
35,000.
Yeah. And lightsabers and, everything. Exactly. So, you go through that. And when Eric Wittenberg was writing his Buford book on the first day, I worked with him a little bit talking about the arms. And, he would go on about, there was one part in there, if I remember right, that one of the Illinois cavalry regiments that they fired their carbine so quickly they actually stopped and cooled the barrel in the waters of Willoughby's Run. And I told Eric, I said, I have fired a lot of carbines in a lot of matches, and they'll get warm, but I never felt the need to cool the water. I said, besides the fact, boil it down, a cavalryman would carry in his carbine box 20 rounds. That's what they held. And probably another 20 or 40 in his haversack. And it was a holding action. So they're not standing there.
Yeah.
They're, and he says, well, you're right. And I said, okay, well, let's move on to the next question. But I've had him out, had him out in the past shooting too. So
that is a good, I've wondered that myself, where you read about, they're fighting so hard that the guns were overheating and stuff. And in certain cases, I'm sure it is true, but I'm also thinking these are weapons of war. Like, are you going to build them to that point where it's going to, take that little to overheat them? Because, I've got more modern guns.
Yep.
And, my friends and I used to go, I have a Mauser, and you can get surplus. You used to be able, I don't know if you still can. You used to be able to get surplus rounds. So I'd get boxes of the hundreds, and we'd go up and shoot that thing all day. And it would get hot. I mean, hot, not warm.
Yeah.
Like, it would get hot, but you could still shoot it. You could still handle it. You have a wood stock and everything. I probably shouldn't have.
Well, we'll run. I've shot in our smoothbore matches, which we don't shoot buck and ball. We just shoot round ball. It's just, there's no good way to, make buck and ball now.
Yeah.
Really for a match like that. And it's a 3-minute match event, and the barrels being thinner will get warm. The Smith carbine, our carbine matches, and you go to the line, you're going to see Sharps and Smiths and Burnsides and Maynards, Gallaghers. If we do a rapid fire event, which we don't do at the Nationals, but like a paper plate, 2-minute as many rounds, and it's a hot day, there's some ifs here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the barrel will get warm, but it's not like it's going to melt on you or anything. So
that's one of the funny things about studying history is it's something like that where the barrels get hot that they have to cool them in Willoughby's Run. And for how long do people believe something like that before somebody comes along and makes sense of it, and then everybody goes, "Oh yeah, all right, that doesn't make any sense."
And the other thing too is the other factors that affect the use of a smoothbore or rifle musket in combat are things like the paper cartridge inherently is very fragile.
Right.
So if it's been in a cartridge box, if it's gotten damp, if the quality of powder from the contractor is not real good, the musket may foul. And remember, there is a misconception sometimes by some people that when you load a rifle musket, you tear the end off the paper cartridge, you pour the powder down the bore, and then you ram that whole powder and ball home, and that's not the way the cartridges were made. There's not enough windage in the barrel to allow you to put all that down the barrel. So what you have to do, and now imagine this, okay, you're in line of combat, 100 yards, you're in a firefight, and you have to take the bullet out of the paper cartridge. Initially, the thought was it would be lubed enough you could kind of squeeze it, okay? Reality is a lot of times you had to tear the paper away, and if you're in a hurry, you may try to ram it home, and then it jams. Here we go again. It jams, and it renders the arm useless. Now that you're doing all this, and we talked a little bit earlier about how horrible it is while you're in a rank, and maybe your buddy just got shot in the head, and there's brains all over you, and you're trying to peel this cartridge over, and then you got to get a cap out and cap the thing.
Yeah.
So, the actual use of the firearm, the conditions that affected the loading and the use and the quality of powder, that whole chain right there, I think is important to think about.
All those little things I think are important to think about, because you're right. Like, and I like the detail of your buddy's brains all over you, because that's slippery. I understand.
Yeah, real.
So you've got brains and blood on your hand while you're trying to do all these intricate little things, like getting that cap on the nipple. Like, that is not easy to do. You're doing that and you're nervous. You're kind of shaking. You're not like calm. I'd have a pile of caps in front of my foot.
It's crazy, and it's not exactly of the Civil War era, but it's close. At the massacre, at the Fetterman massacre or Fetterman fight, it's the temperature is about zero, and they had like 63, 61 spring rifle muskets, and they're out there, and it's that cold, and they're trying to load these things with a lot of very angry Native Americans coming out of the ground. And I know I have shot matches in the winter and tried to get a cap out of your cap box. It's crazy.
It's hard to do.
It's really nuts.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And if it's zero, they've got to have gloves on, right? Even if you cut the fingertips off, the glove itself, you lose a lot of dexterity.
It'll help keep your hand warm a little bit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's still cold. It doesn't.
Zero is hard to overcome.
I've shot some real cold matches, and it's you really need to go clean the gun and then go to a bar. I mean, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's what a smart guy would do.
Go warm up at the bar.
Exactly.
So the Lorenz is not, obviously. Everybody that has that, you mentioned before that they boil it down to Springfield and Enfield. Mm-hmm. North has one, South has the other. Why do you think that is? Is it just to simplify things because in the majority that's what they were, or is that not even true?
I think it is basically the basic histories from the 1950s, didn't really specify the types of firearms.
Right.
I mean, I think, and I got to remember back to reading Coddington because it's been a long time. I think he had a pretty good section on the different types of firearms.
He did. He had some pretty interesting statistics.
Yeah.
I think... I want to say, and maybe you would know if this is right or wrong, that he said that 20% of the Union Army had smooth bores.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
correct.
Okay.
And that's a good segue into smooth bores. I'm a proponent, and I've written a couple articles. In fact, my latest article for the Civil War Monitor, which they just put out this week online, is on George Willard, who was killed on the second day. And brigade commander of, had the Harper's Ferry Cowards and in the Second Corps. But he wrote a paper in the spring of 1863 that was widely published. And it was called The Comparative Value of the Rifle-Musket versus the Smoothbore. And his contention in the paper, and you can get it online, and I'll send you a good link.
Okay.
His whole contention is we are not training, the troops aren't trained to use the rifle musket. They're not trained to guess, for the most part. Now, there were some units that did train, but to guesstimate distance, then to set the rear sight for that distance while they're in the heat of combat. Here we go again. Here they come. They're 200 yards. Okay, 200 yards. And then by the time you reload, they close.
Yeah.
And the rifle musket has a real parabolic, arc to it. So there's always a safe zone some way. And they weren't trained to do this. And I think that's really what drives, besides the outmoded tactics, what drives the close distances of Civil War combat is because they realized that it's easier. Patty Griffin, I think, said it was average 100 to 120 yards. It's easier just to point and shoot at that distance, than it is, to try to adjust your sights.
Well, so they might not have been trained to basically be marksmen, right?
Yep.
But if they're veteran enough and experienced enough, are these things that they would pick up, and that there might be some people in the ranks who know what they're doing that can teach everybody?
I think that's a valid argument. There's two different things you can talk about. The use of a rifle musket out on the skirmish line obviously is a lot different.
Right.
Because you're spread out and you're looking for an individual target instead of a mass, And I think veterans troops probably understood. But you'll see a lot of infields, especially Confederate infield rifle muskets, that have had the rear sights removed. And the contention is they removed them themselves because it was just, And think about, there's a couple good instances. Willard's paper is worth a read because his contention is you got 10 companies in a regiment. You arm 8 with smoothbores and they had 2 flank companies, skirmish companies, light infantry companies, whatever you want to call them, are trained and armed with rifle muskets and trained in the proper use of rifle muskets.
Yeah.
Now, his whole brigade at Gettysburg was armed with rifle muskets, but when they closed down in Plum Run, they bayonet charged and closed at 30 or 40 yards. So, you know, I mean, the other instance that's interesting, the Irish Brigade, I don't think they ever gave up their smoothbores.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that on another show, and I think that's what somebody said.
You know, and the St. Clair Mulholland, who wrote the regimental history of the 116th Pennsylvania, has a great passage in that regimental history about the fight at Stony Hill.
Mm.
And when they advanced and they could see the heads of the Confederates, as they advanced, you know, up there by where the Irish Brigade Monument is now, and you go around where the 116th monument is, the recumbent soldier, you know, which is my favorite.
Yeah, mine too.
I took again today. I added to my list of photographs of that. You know,
you're obsessed with it.
I am.
You're waiting for the perfect photo.
I am. I'm looking for the perfect light. So anyhow, but you know, if you could look at that terrain and see what he's talking about, he says as soon as we could see the heads and shoulders of the Confederates, I'm paraphrasing, but he said our buck and ball did terrific work at that close range, and most of the Confederates were shot in the head and the chest. The beauty of buck and ball is you've got 4 projectiles, and it's not about killing your opponent, but if you put him out of combat, you know, if he's wounded and then his friend wants to take him to the rear and help him, now you've down 2. You know, it is amazing. That's another great quote in that book. And then, you know, of course, the 12th New Jersey Monument.
Yeah.
You know, buck and ball caliber 69, and yet they advanced across the field and cleared out the Bliss house and barn with their 69 caliber, you know, firearms.
When we recorded that episode with Ralph a couple months ago, I think we haven't put it out yet. It's called the Mighty Napoleon or something like that. I forgot what title he came up with, but it's about the Napoleon. And by the end of it, I came to the conclusion that I would rather have more smooth bores in my army than rifled pieces.
Next time you drive the battlefield on one of your early morning big cup of coffees, I'm going to drive, you know, the battlefield.
Yeah.
And, you know, take me along with you from Ohio, you know,
you want to do that one day?
Yeah, I could do that.
That'd be fun. We could do it.
Yeah,
we could talk artillery as we drive around.
It's what I love seeing, and I never realized this until a couple years ago. Wayne Motts did an artillery thing, foundation, and I was there. And look at the placement of the artillery pieces on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look where the Napoleons are, and look where the rifle pieces are.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the fields of fire for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see the Napoleons, especially on the second day, closer to town.
Yes.
Okay, you'll see the rifle pieces with more, you know.
That's true. Well, because the lines diverge from each other as you go down.
And I've never read anyone who said, you know, Wainwright, Osborne, or Hunt. I never read that they did this on purpose. But they did this on purpose. I mean, these are the pros. You know, the pros from Dover are setting these guns up. So, you know, you can say, okay, well, the Peach Orchard had a lot of Napoleons, but then they came out of the reserve.
Right.
And obviously, there was a reason they were put there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I just think, you know, when it gets down to it, if I'm being overrun or about to be overrun, I would rather have the canister shot of a Napoleon than a rifled gun. That's the way that was all I needed.
I've got a great friend I've skirmished with for years, and he's in his 80s now, by the name of Chuck Fulton, and he and I traveled a lot together, and we have had a over 40-year running argument. He's a 3-inch ordnance rifle guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm a 12-pound Napoleon guy through and through. Trust me.
Okay.
And this has been going on, you know. And I told him, I said, give me a Napoleon any day. if you look at the work the Napoleons, and now we're talking artillery, which is great. If you look at the work the Napoleons did.
It's not small arms.
Hey.
Who cares?
We'll
just call it Arms at Gettysburg.
It's your show, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just changed the name.
You can do whatever you want, right?
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yep.
But if you look at the work that Stevens Battery and Battery B did, Stewart's Battery, in the afternoon of July, the 1st July, especially against Scales' brigade when they were advancing against the barricade.
Yeah.
You look how they decimated that brigade. You know, that's the work of some of the best Napoleon work that I think you'll ever see.
Yeah.
And there's a soldier in the 24th Michigan. His last name is Ziegler, and he wrote that when they fell back, they actually fell back right under the muzzles of Stevens Battery. And he said, but he loved to hear he called them Napoleon Bulldogs. He loved to hear the ring of the Napoleon Bulldogs. So, I'm a big battery guy.
There's a video. I'm sure there's more than one, but there's one that I saw on YouTube of them firing live rounds out of a Napoleon, and you get that ping.
Yep.
And it just, the ping alone, forget about the explosions, just that ping has got to be deafening. And then you mix that together with all the explosions on a battlefield. It's incredible to think of how much noise that was.
Hey, buddy. What's got you so down?
Hey, Court. I'm looking for a gift, but I just don't know what to get my Gettys nerd friends and family.
It sounds like we need to have a talk. Come on. You love this place, don't you?
You bet I do. It's my favorite place in the world.
Well, you see, at Addressing Gettysburg, it's our mission to keep these stories alive.
How do we do that?
I'm glad you asked, sport. You see, Gettysburg is the gateway to the most brutal and crucial time in American history, so we interview experts, and our listeners learn with us.
That sounds amazing.
It is! Mike, are you f***ing serious?
What? It's for the commercial. What benefits do patrons get?
You mean besides up to 4 premium episodes per month and Matt being the bee's knees as host? Huh. How about early access to special episodes, behind-the-scenes insights, and discounts for ticketed events?
Whoa! None of the other history channels I follow do that for their listeners.
That's because Addressing Gettysburg doesn't take its listeners for granted and really cares about us learning American history.
You know, I should gift my Gettys nerd friends and family an Addressing Gettysburg Patreon membership.
You see, the answer was right under your nose the entire time.
Make Addressing Gettysburg's Patreon a gift for the Gettys nerd in your family this holiday season. Addressing Gettysburg wants you to learn about the Civil War with us, and we need your support. We'll run this ad until it gets annoying, and then we'll run it until you become a patron at patreon.com/Addressing Gettysburg or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Happy holidays.
The hell are we staring at?
No idea.
Well, and you know, we've kind of hit the standard line small arms with the smoothie and the smoothbore and the Rifle-Musket, but we can talk a little bit about, you know, the specialty units like Berdan's and Andrews sharpshooters, and on the Confederate side, Blackford sharpshooters, especially around the McLean farm.
Yeah.
The Confederates were just starting to establish sharpshooter battalions. And by the 1864 campaign, I mean, each brigade and division had a separate trained sharpshooter battalion. There's a great book called Lee's Sharpshooters. The author was Dunlap, and he was an officer, and it tells about the preferred arm, which is an infield rifle. Obviously, some of them had the Whitworth, okay, but not every, and there weren't many.
Right.
And the guys were selected out of their regiment by a marksmanship contest. Then they were trained in range estimation, and again, the 2-band infield rifle, not Rifle-Musket, was their preferred arm. So that was the beginning. I always laugh. I mean, I've been coming to Gettysburg since 74. And it always struck me, and I've told some people, if the Army of Northern Virginia would have bought some other troops but sharpshooters, they might have won, because all you hear about in the general history, Reynolds is killed by a sharpshooter. Just go down the line. Who, where's the rest of the guys? Send all my sharpshooters.
Only sharpshooters can take out important people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need a sharpshooter here right now. Sharpshooter in aisle 3.
Right, because Weed and what's his face?
Yeah,
Hazlitt
was taking a zoot. I mean, you can just, so.
But like I never bought that they were taken out by a sharpshooter in Devil's Den.
No, they weren't.
Because how can somebody down there see through all the smoke and all the confusion and make out these two guys? And if we're to believe that that's the spot where it happened, where it's marked,
yeah.
How are you getting that shot?
That's the other thing is, you talk about the carnage, the confusion, the noise, the smoke.
Yeah.
The smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, you go down to, again, I'm plugged for that to say, but Fort Shenandoah, you go on the musket match, and on one relay, the first relay, you normally have, say, 50 positions, so you got 8 people positions, so you've got 400 muskets firing, okay?
I got that I have to record.
Okay, so it is, and if you got a damp day, the smoke just hangs, and it is amazing what you can't see at 50 yards. It's amazing. So it's a real, even though no one's shooting at you and anything, but the smoke is the same.
Yep.
The effect is you're going to get the same. So, it's like Reynolds drives me nuts. Reynolds being shot by a sharpshooter. And, people will measure distances. And then there's the old Confederate veterans who said, yeah, I took the shot. Lance Hurtigan and I did a thing a couple years ago where we took a lot of accounts and then measured their distances. If you go into the Herbst Woodlot in the winter and you've walked through it and it's cut up by a couple different ravines, it's not a flat table.
Right.
And you go down and in that ravine, the closest to where the Reynolds Monument is, and you are a Confederate troop, you're down there and you're looking up. It's in the morning. Remember, the Herbst Woodlot is an open woodlot. It's not like it is today, okay? So, and you look at I always look at the Reynolds Monument as if about the same height as he was sitting on a horse, okay? It's easy to see where he got shot by an infantryman or a volley. I mean, because 2nd Wisconsin was coming up through there. So it wasn't a sharpshooter who saw an officer on a horse that shot him from, the McPherson barn or from over north of the railroad cut or, from Chambersburg or someplace. So
no, and it's another thing that you never see this in movies, and I've talked about this on the show before. So sorry to the audience for repeating it, but sometimes I repeat things because
I do it because
you need to learn.
I do it because I'm 71. What's your name again? Trust me.
I do it because I don't think people really get my point. So, but there's a World War II computer game that I like to play. And I've never noticed this in any other one, but when you've got your battle going on, and for whatever reason, you move the camera back behind the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no fighting going on. But every once in a while, you're hearing thwap into the barn or thwap into a rock or something like that. And those are the overshoots. And they've incorporated it into the game, which I think is great. But that's something you never see in movies are the overshoots.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, I used to think when I was younger, well, I want to be like the highest ranking general I can possibly be because I'll be in the back. It's like, yeah, but so will the overshoots.
Well, that's it. I mean, and a lot of those rounds had lost most of velocity, so they would stun you. But there's a lot of accounts. There's not a Gettysburg soldier, but 74th Ohio in the Atlanta campaign, the name of Ira Owens. He wrote the regimental book, but he talked about a lot of times behind the lines during the Atlanta campaign when both sides were kind of in fortifications before they kept moving. was more dangerous than being in the trenches because of the overshoots.
Yeah.
Exactly, because artillery and small arms fire.
Sure.
So, you talk about the use of the Burton ball and buck and ball, but on the first day, the Iron Brigade, and the 19th Indiana was obviously on the left flank of the brigade when the afternoon attack happened. A lot of those guys had wounds that are reflective of a buckshot wound. They weren't. They were stung. They weren't exactly what you would think a Burton ball would do. And you see a lot of this, the minor wounds, in a battle, which you kind of think, well, like John Burns was supposed to be wounded like 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 times, whichever he wrote.
700 times.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think a lot of those might have come from buckshot too. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, he had one bad wound through the leg. And I just wrote an article for Military Images. I'm working on it now on the firearms of John Burns. Not that we can tell you exactly what he shot, but it's kind of interesting to look at the veterans' accounts and see how many different types of arms they said they saw him armed with.
Isn't that something? So how many have you counted?
I've come up with basically about 4 or 5 from his original flintlock, which is the picture that you see of him when he's sitting on the porch.
Right.
I think, and Tim Smith wrote the definitive Burns book. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
He was out in the morning running around, and then he went back home, I think, mainly to get some lunch, and I think maybe Mrs. Burns told him that he had no business running around. And it's kind of funny because the account, I'm making some of this up, but the account says he ordered her to go to the basement, and she did. Those were the days. I mean, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen today. No, she, and then he went out the door to fight the war.
You're telling me to go where, you son of a bitch?
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's an account that he had the 150th Pennsylvania. Their major wrote an account. He wrote the regimental history that he saw him approaching. He had an infield, and they were partially armed with infields. And there's another account. They told him to go fight with like the 7th Wisconsin, and then they say one guy said he had an infield. Another guy said they gave him a silver-mounted rifle, Confederate sharpshooter rifle. Then there's another account that he had. There's another account he had another infield. So the one constant of all these accounts is he always refused a cartridge box and the belt and the cap pouch. He put the rounds in his pocket and put the caps in his vest pocket. There are 3 or 4 accounts of that. So he fought better, this way.
Yeah.
But, Tim, as he talked about him being wounded and he crawled, it's amazing to me because he crawled to the eastern face of East McPherson's Ridge, kind of behind where, on the other side of where the Reynolds Monument is, and laid there. And I'm thinking, if he was laying there during the time Scales Brigade advanced over the top of him and those Napoleons, then he crawled and, in the Riggs basement, and then he got back home and probably got in trouble again. And then he became famous. So he's one of my favorites. I mean,
he's an interesting guy.
What a crusty old guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that too.
Yeah. I'm heading there.
Exactly. Easy guy to understand.
Yeah. So, okay. Carbines. Let's get into some carbines.
Okay.
So, of course, we alluded to before that old myth of Buford's men having the repeaters.
Yeah, but we had Spencer. Yeah, exactly. He didn't have any. They had Smith carbines. They had Smiths, Sharps, and Hankins. And the Sharps and Hankins is kind of interesting. It used a Spencer cartridge.
Okay.
But it was a single shot. And I think only part of one of his regiment had those. Sharps, more Sharps than anything else. Had some Burnsides and I think some Gallaghers.
Are Burnsides the ones without a stock?
No,
like it's just
the first model did it. I think by Gettysburg they had the second model had a stock.
Had a stock. That had to get hot.
That was Ambrose. It's kind of interesting because the breech comes up and the cartridge looks like sort of like a cone, and you slide it in. this way,
Right.
and then you lower it, and it's pretty good. It was really not a bad carbine. But ballistically, and we shoot a lot of carbine. I'll tell you, a carbine in the hands of a trained cavalryman is effective, really effective, maybe out 150 yards at most.
Okay.
Really, I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's a long pistol, basically.
Exactly. So, yeah. But Buford's men obviously used them to great advantage in the delaying action. So, but no Spencers.
So, no repeating guns at all.
And no, as far as we can tell, unless it was a private purchase by someone, there were no Henrys at Gettysburg either.
Yeah, so where do these ideas come from? Like this idea that Buford had the repeaters when we know Custer did.
I don't know.
Custer
had rifles too. They didn't start producing the Spencer carbines until late summer '63. So Wilder out west, he bought the Spencers for his Lightning Brigade, and he had them. They were using them in the Tullahoma campaign at Hoover's Gap in June of '63. That was really the first widespread use of the Spencer. He wanted Henrys, but Henry couldn't make the order work for him. Interesting thing, compare the two. Spencer fires a bigger round, more shock power, 44 caliber versus Spencer being 52. Larger powder charge. The Henry, even though you can rapid fire the 14 rounds, you have to load the tube again. And if you drop a Henry on the ground and bend that loading tube underneath, that's why Winchester later with the 56 came up with the side gate.
Okay.
It really is a fragile or more fragile arm than the Spencer that has the magazine in the butt. Okay.
Sure.
But where it comes from, the Spencer myth, I have no idea.
Because we like to wonder those things sometimes. And one of the things we were talking about recently was the Stuart riding around to pierce the center and coincide with Pickett's charge.
There's, Jim and I are good friends, and we do our tours together and stuff. And he is, as you know, an excellent cavalry historian, and as is Eric Wittenberg. And both of them just shake their heads with that whole, all you got to do is think a minute about how worn out his cavalry was to begin with.
Yeah.
How tired they were from the long ride. So, yeah, I mean, the myths sometimes are, And then I think with Gettysburg, and maybe some other, more Gettysburg than anything else, is there's times when people have got to, I don't want to say invent, but spin a new story, a new angle, a new hook,
Yes.
We had a guy, a friend of mine, Andy Roscoe, wrote an article for Gettysburg Magazine about when was Solomon Meredith wounded the first day, commander of the Iron Brigade. And he, there's some confusion about when he was. Did it really make a difference?
No.
No. They had experienced regimental commanders. They had a small front, but I think, he wanted to find a new hook,
Yeah, it's it's been written. Everything seems to have been written about already, so it's hard to.
It is.
It's hard to find something else.
But there's, I always tell Jim, there's a whole world out west of the mountains, where the grass is greener and the sky is bluer.
I've been bugging him to write the ultimate Little Bighorn book.
He needs to.
I think he's going to, because we did a show with him at the seminary a couple of weeks ago, and I used the audience to pressure him into that.
Oh, good.
In the beginning I said, well, he's got his day one book here and everything like that. And next he's going to write the ultimate history of the Little Bighorn. And everybody started applauding. And I said, see, Jim, now you got to do it.
He is, we've done 3 tours out there. And I always laugh because, he's of our tour partnership, he's the talent and I just make the trains run on time.
Yeah.
That's,
See, I need I need a guy who makes the trains run.
That's all. That's what I do. Push the group along, make sure everybody's got water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the neat thing about Jim is that we'll finish one of the day's tours, and if we're out on the battlefield proper, and he'll say, "You and me, we stay till they close," and he will not leave that battlefield. That's how much he loves that Custer store.
Yeah.
And we walked down to Deep Ravine one afternoon, and it was like 110 in the shade, and I said, "I'm with you, brother," but he will not leave. He'll send the rest of them back.
Yeah.
If you want to go back, but we'll see you when we in Billings when we get done. So it's pretty cool.
I've yet to go out there. I wanted to go. Well, I want to go on one of the tours you guys do, but it's a little too rich for my blood. I'm a simple podcaster. I'm not a.
I wouldn't call yourself. I
multimedia.
wouldn't say you're simple, Matt. I'd just say you're a pretty good podcaster.
My school GPA would say otherwise. I'm very simple.
Let me tell you what, mine would match you. We could play. Let's not.
School doesn't mean anything.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't. I mean,
yeah. No, I appreciate the compliment.
No.
But yeah, that's what I need to find though. I need to find a guy like you, the ramrod, the guy who makes it all happen.
Because there's no doubt
I'm sick of that.
That he's, I don't fill in unless he asks me to. Usually it's something on the arms, that we talk about out there.
Right.
But he's good.
Well, I know it's a little off topic, but again, as you pointed out, it's my show. We can do whatever we want.
Exactly.
So now that you brought up Little Bighorn,
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you often hear about when people talk about that battle is the advantage that the Sioux had and the natives had against the cavalry, because those who did have, though there was a mix of firearms and other arms, those who did have firearms, many of them had Winchesters.
Henrys,
right?
Yeah.
While we, meaning the U.S. cavalry, had these single-shot carbines. Were they Spencers at that point? Or
no, they had 4570 trapdoors.
Trapdoors.
Yep, 1873 model.
Which those are cool, but I don't want to. I don't want that when everybody's coming at me with Winchesters and arrows.
The Army's doctrine, and when they adopt the 4570, the single shot trapdoor, couple things. Number one, it did use some parts that were left over from the American Civil War. There's an expense thing. Number two is the repeater of the time, be it the Henry, the Yellow Boy, the Model 1866, or the Spencer, had limited range.
Yes.
It really had limited range, and they were going to be fighting on the plains, and they wanted something that could reach out and touch you.
So, in other words, the 4570, it's a longer cartridge, it's a rifle cartridge, has longer range, whereas the Winchesters were firing pistol rounds.
Yeah, the 44 caliber rimfire.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so if you take it and you look at Little Bighorn, the effectiveness of the Indians that had repeating arms was driven also by their use of terrain to get in close. That's what you got to think about. When you go out there, you'll see. When you look at that battlefield, you don't have to be. You can be simple guys like you and me, and we can figure out real quick. What happened. Okay, so
you could just see that from Google Earth, really.
Oh, you can. Yeah. And so the fact they were able to get in close and pour in a volume of fire, within 100 yards. With their repeaters, and again, the 7th had the single shot 4570, not as effective at close range, especially when the targets are disappearing.
Yeah.
And it's a scary time because the other factor of that fight is the use of the arrows and how they rain down too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Well, and weren't they? Oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
So we've talked about basically what happened to Custer and his men, but if you look at the fight on Reno Hill, okay, the next day when they were under siege for a day and a half, and you look at the effectiveness of the 4570 there when they were bunkered in and holding the Indians at range, okay, at where you would, what the what that trap door was developed for, to hold them at range. It worked out real well.
Okay.
Pretty well.
I thought I had read somewhere that an Indian could empty all the arrows in his quiver before the first one hits the ground.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's tremendously
It's crazy.
fast.
And I think that's what happened a lot to the horses that were being held. And then, too, is they took a lot of, and the guys did, I mean, it was horrible. And I've had one of the things, I mean, the little Bighorn forums you'll hear, they'll talk about Reno and when he was down across the Little Bighorn after Custer had split his command. And, well, why didn't Reno ride through the camp with their, Colt revolvers? And, well, the thing of it is,
He's not John Wayne.
well, number one, loading a single action Colt when you're standing on the ground, somebody not shooting at you can more be difficult.
Yeah.
When you're on a horse galloping after you fire your 6 rounds,
You're done. You better have a second pistol.
Yeah, it's like, or something.
Yeah.
Or another idea. So, you've got to look deep into terrain, and you got to look deep into the training is important, and the actual experience of what was going on then. And again, handling the firearm is important. Like in the movie Glory, when Matthew, he's going, faster,
Yep.
faster.
Oh,
Well,
I know it.
there's a little bit of a point there.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that, because when, excuse me, when you talked about there was no training before,
Faster! Faster!
he's shaking.
Do it! Do it!
The toughest I've ever seen Matthew Broderick.
You're right.
Anyway, shit. What was I saying?
We're talking about terrain and 4570s and movie Glory.
Oh, training.
Yeah, training.
Yeah. Okay.
Training,
So steering back to Gettysburg, and see, this is why I'll never be big, because my ADD takes this all over the place. That the people, well, it's good, except it annoys audiences that can't. They it's like, I thought this was supposed to be about, and then.
You know what? I always, and I kid Jim, and I'll tell you too, I listen to podcasts when I'm driving, or when I'm making bullets, molding bullets.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. When I go, I've always tried to listen to them. I can never listen to them when I go to bed because I fall asleep. It makes a difference. I tell Jim it's his calming voice that puts it in. And you too, you guys,
Right.
I'll make 5 minutes of.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way.
So, but there's enough different podcasts out there that, you can.
Yeah, there's a taste for everybody.
You can shop whatever you want.
A flavor for everyone's taste.
I was on one a couple of months. I never heard about it till they reached out, called the Wabash Inn podcast. It's from Western. These guys are from Western Kentucky. And it's all Western theater. And I got looking at their guest list, and it was pretty strong. I mean, authors and stuff. And it was a great discussion. It's like this one. It got started,
just all over,
and then next thing you know, we're talking other stuff.
Yeah,
so,
and
fun.
And honestly, I kind of joke, because the audience, that's one of the things they do like, is they say that it's like listening to a bunch of friends talking at the bar.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, would you like a scotch? I have
yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah, you want one?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Oh well, don't mind if I do. Hold on.
Exactly.
Let's.
I never.
For you.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, we'll have a little Glenlivet 21 year Glenlivet archive. I'll show it to the
there you go.
audience there.
There you go. That's yep.
Courtesy of our friend Tim Day.
Oh.
There you go. Give you a little snort there.
And I always have. I had a great Gettysburg friend who passed away about 6 years ago, a heart attack. And we always toasted to the pure life, which is from the John Wayne movie, The Shootist.
Yep.
But Jack was a great 34th Virginia historian. And when you're on the battlefield of Gettysburg, there's people that you like to be with because they get it.
Yeah.
And there's people that will never get it. And then you tend to let those people get away.
Yeah.
And I like to be on the battlefield with people who get it. And Jack was that type of guy. I mean, we didn't even, he was a Confederate from Sedgwick, Massachusetts. And I know. And a wonderful unit, NSSA unit, the 34th Virginia, a mix of guys from Massachusetts and guys from Grundy, West Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And when they start talking back in the day, I couldn't understand what anybody was saying.
Yeah.
It didn't make any difference. But Jack was a great friend and left us way too early. And I miss him every time I go to Gettysburg. We had some great times.
It's tough to lose a friend like that where you got that thing. Well, then to Jack.
To Jack. To the pure love. That tastes like more.
It's delicious.
Yep.
Okay. So what I was saying before was that you had said that they didn't have much training with the rifled musket.
No.
Another, I forgot what my question was, but I'm getting back here. So, okay. Another thing that you said before, you made a distinction between a rifle musket and a rifle.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's another one of a rifle has a 33-inch barrel.
Okay.
Okay. A rifle musket started life as a rifle musket, like a P-53 Infield is a rifle musket. A 61-55, 61-63 Springfield is a rifle musket. And a smoothbore that's been rifled, like the Model 1842 smoothbore rifled musket, started life as a smoothbore and got rifled as a rifle. Now, that is really what I call, and a lot of my friends call, Civil War anal.
Yeah.
Okay, because they'll look at me and say, you are just out there, because you can read the period accounts and the guys are calling Springfield rifles and rifle muskets and,
It's interchangeable.
But if you want to get, that's what it is.
All right, let me make sure I get this straight. You have a musket, which is smoothbore.
Okay. Smoothbore musket, yeah.
Now, I rifle it. I now have a rifle musket.
Rifled,
but it's written rifle.
Well, sometimes.
Okay. That's another thing that always confused me. All right, now, so I have a rifled musket. But then there's a musket made rifled from the get-go.
Like the 61 Springfield.
And that's a rifle.
It was born with grooves in its barrel.
Right, so it's a rifle.
It's a rifle musket. Now.
But wait, so then but you said before, and maybe you were just misspeaking, but you said before I think you said you were making a distinction about the 2-ring, and I think you said rifle musket, not a rifle or something, or
a rifle is like a Mississippi is a rifle. It's got a 33-inch barrel.
So it's the length of the barrel.
Yes, is one of the drivers.
So what's the length of a musket?
Musket barrel is 40 inches.
So a musket, rifled or otherwise, is a 40-inch
40 or 42. Some of them
barrel.
are just a little longer, but
Okay. And so a rifle is exactly no more, no less 33 inches?
33 inches. You'll see, obviously, the Mississippi is used in Gettysburg, 45th, New York. The infield rifle is the P-56, which Blackford sharpshooters liked, and a lot of the Confederates really liked, but it's a rifle. Has a saber bayonet, okay? A lot of times...
rifle won't have one.
Okay.
Right?
A rifle will have usually has a saber bayonet a lot of the times. Now, there's some Mississippi alterations that took a socket bayonet, so you can't paint with a broad brush.
Okay.
The triangular bayonet.
At Digital History Pioneers Foundation, we are about grassroots history on digital platforms. That means we are about podcasters, documentarians, YouTubers, and even TikTokers. All of these creators are out there trying to share their love of history with the public. They don't need ideas, they need funding, both from viewers and corporate donors. DH Pioneers' initial funding focus is on the Civil War era, with a special emphasis on the Addressing Gettysburg podcast. So be a vital part of the unique content Addressing Gettysburg has in store by donating at dhpioneers.com and help bring your love of history to the people. Digital History Pioneers is an IRS Section 501c3 approved charitable corporation that makes any donation tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law.
the Model 1855 series of arms, which started production, which was our first series of arms that used the Burton ball. They had a pistol carbine, okay, which was a single shot, and they all had the Maynard primer, which is the tape primer like a cap gun. There's a guy in Gettysburg, Brett Gibbons, who makes paper cartridges. I've never met the guy, but I'm a big follower of his YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody you should probably have on.
He's local, isn't he? Yeah. My friend, I want to have him on.
Yeah, he's really sharp.
Yeah,
and so, but they had a pistol carbine, which was looks like a single shot pistol with a carbine stock. They put a detachable stock on it. Not really very good. Then they had what they called a 55 rifle, which was supposed to be used by the light infantry. Now, this is all pre-Civil War doctrine, what they're building these firearms for. This is before the concept of what we had starting in 1861 was even thought of. So for light infantry, they had a rifle and with a big old saber bayonet, which is about useless. And then for the line infantry, they had a Rifle-Musket, which was the longer 40-inch barrel. Now, you can, don't live where I live on this. Okay, I'll just tell you that right now. Because,
okay.
You can look at the reports, you can look at the ordnance reports, and the guys in period are calling them whatever they want to. The headings of the Ohio ordnance reports are usually specific to rifle and rifled musket.
Uh-huh.
That is really, that is. I just need to live that myself.
Right.
The rest of you people don't worry about it.
Nobody needs to carry that much.
No, you don't need to carry that with you.
So, okay, so we talked rifle muskets. We talked carbines. We even talked a little artillery. We even talked some arrows at the Little Bighorn and Winchesters and stuff and Henrys and all that stuff. How about pistols?
There's not much. You don't read much about the actual use of the revolver at Gettysburg. There's some accounts of officers using them. Was it Alexander Webb at the Angle fired his revolver a lot of time? Maybe even Henry Hunt too, at the Confederates. But I mean,
you can understand that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the interesting things, you just don't read too much about, and in the cavalry fight, there's some references on the third day, East Cavalry Battlefield, about closing with the revolvers, but that was mostly other than the Michigan troops, mostly a saber fight. So, the revolver is it's like a 25-yard really gun.
Right.
You shot them.
You got to get in close.
It's not, And
they're not very accurate. I have a Navy and an Army, and they're fun.
Yeah.
Until you got to take it apart and clean it.
Oh.
And I stopped shooting them because I go, it's not that much fun, and I can't hit a goddamn thing with it.
We had a guy on our NSSA team years ago who was our team revolver shooter, and he was dying of cancer, and he says, I would like to have the team enter in our revolver match. So in honor of John, we did. And I'm just awful. So we got up there, and we are the only team in NSSA history to finish a company match dead last, which we did with the revolver match. I think I had one hit, and I don't think I was even aiming at the target I hit. Okay, and I went out and bought I bought a match Remington. This guy made it, had it all tuned up,
mm-hmm.
And then I put, George Patton fake pearl.
Yeah.
Grips on it. Didn't help me a bit. So, but then we won the musket match 2 days later. So no one's ever gone from worst to first.
Right.
And we were bad. I can't.
They're
shoot.
hard to do.
I cannot shoot.
I mean, even a modern pistol, I'm much better with a rifle than a pistol.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just find them to be easier. Pistols.
You get to the third day. We've kind of hit instances of first, second, third day. And you get to the third day and you talk about Pickett Pettigrew charge. And one of the things that always interests me is, the 12th New Jersey and Buck and Ball. and at the before the charge, they're breaking apart their cartridges and making large buckshot loads. Okay, taking out and they didn't open up, and then they had multiple firearms for anyone who had been wounded or killed. So they stacked them up against the wall there by the Bryan farm, and they didn't open up fire until they came across the fence. So but then next to them, and this is always interesting. Next to them is the 14th Connecticut, and they've got some Sharps rifles they're using. Okay, so in that space of time, you've got the new technology, and you've got the old technology.
Yeah,
doing horrendous work. So it's pretty cool.
So back to the pistols. So obviously the officers have them, the cavalry has them, artillery. I'm assuming that, and I must have read this somewhere, but the idea of them being the ones that carry the pistols is because if it gets so bad that the colonel has to join the fight, it's really close.
Yeah.
Right? Or with cavalry, you're in a charge, you're right in front of each other. So you're too close for sabers even.
In 1961, when this was all new, a lot of guys got revolvers from family, friends, bought them, infantrymen, and then they lost them real quick after the first long march. You'll see pictures of some officers, and it seems to me they normally carry, unless on horseback, smaller caliber like the Smith &
Like
Wesson's 32s or the
32.
The Model 1849 Colt 31, smaller caliber pistols on their belts because their job is to direct the fight, not really join into the fight.
So why carry the big heavy 44 or something? Yeah.
Why? So a color guard, pretty simple. The guys who carried the colors were not under arms. They had no arms. Now you might see a picture of one with a small revolver, but the color guard, the other corporals or the other members of the color guard, their job was to protect the color bearers, and they were under arms. But the guys carrying the flag were never under arms. Nope.
When we talked about the smoke before on a battlefield, and I would imagine that when you guys have some kind of competition or just a big shoot where you got a couple hundred people there and everything, you got to get a pretty good idea. You could probably take that and extrapolate and imagine, really what a Civil War battlefield would look like. If just based on the experiences you've had out at the range with a few hundred muskets firing off, as best you can, use that to imagine what a Civil War battlefield would have looked like.
It has got to be a horrific arena of smoke, noise, and bloodshed, and mud sometimes, and dust, and we're not even talking about then you add in the horses, the death of the horses, and just the noise, complete noise. But that's why when a Civil War soldier would write his account, his focus has always got to be very narrow. What's happening really close in and close to him.
That's all he can see.
So, again, when we take it back to the effectiveness of the Rifle-Musket and, the Burton ball and such, I think you have to take in those factors too. One of the things when I do a couple presentations on the fight of the barricade on the afternoon of July 1st there at Lutheran Seminary. And when the First Corps, when they fell back to the barricade after that, the assault by Heath or Pettigrew's division, and then fought through the Herbst Woods, and by the time that the Confederates got to the eastern edge of Herbst Woods, they were pretty well fought out. And then Pender talks about, you can read his report, he passed over them. They were out of ammo and they were all pretty much shot to hell. And so there was a lull. Okay, and the smoke kind of cleared, and all these veteran Federal infantrymen are back behind the barricade, okay, and you got a range of, from basically the barricade to East McPherson's Ridge, 400 yards, give or take. And what a perfect arena for the long-range use of a rifle musket, which all the regiments in that barricade on the south side of Chambersburg Pike had a rifle musket.
Right.
But they didn't open fire to the Confederates for basically at 200 yards in the bottom of the swale. So that just shows you, and they're veteran troops, so that just shows you right there. McFarland, who had the 151st Pennsylvania, he writes that he's one of the few regimental commanders that had trained his guys in the use of their rifle muskets.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
it is. Of course, they had their moment too, but
that's so astonishing to me. Like I could see in basic or whatever they called basic back then, not training just in the interest of getting them out in the field. But once you're in the field, I would think you'd want, if you're the colonel, you would want your men to be proficient with their guns.
As the war went on, you'll find accounts of regimental commanders actually, and having the units had the ability to be issued ammunition for target practice. So you'll run into those accounts some, but they're not widespread at all. And then let's go past Gettysburg. Let's go into the wilderness.
Okay.
What's your combat range in the smoke hell of the wilderness?
Not very far.
Well, if you had a choice between a rifle musket or a smoothbore in the wilderness, I'd take a smoothbore any day.
Yeah.
Fire and buck and ball. It's like rabbit hunting with a shotgun. So,
right.
I mean, versus a 22 in the woods. So, and I'm not against the rifle musket or the Burton ball at all. The interesting thing about the Burton ball, and the reason I call it that, is James Burton, 1854-55, of Harper's Ferry. He took the mini design and refined it, took out the iron cup that they had to do the expansion, and he refined it, found the correct, bore diameter to fit and powder charge so that you didn't have to use that iron cup. So the ball that's used during the Civil War is basically the one, Burton ball, Harper's Ferry ball, it's called both, that he refined. What I always find interesting about him, and he became a lieutenant colonel colonel of Confederate Ordnance, down in Macon. He was, instrumental before the war in setting up the infield armory in Great Britain, came back. But after the war, he farmed the Pritchard farm at Kernstown. The big Pritchard house there he lived there, and he farmed that land. And I always wonder how many of his children that he dug up that were in the ground, and his thoughts about his role in developing this horrific projectile.
Yeah. So the cup that you're talking about, was that like essentially a sabot type of a function?
To provide, that's when Manet first developed it, he had it to provide the expansion into the rifling grooves.
Got it. So here's something. We were doing a show a couple of weeks ago, I think, with Larry Korchek, and we're talking about the Iron Brigade, and we're talking about how close they are, the Iron Brigade, specifically the 24th Michigan and the 26th North Carolina, some 20 paces apart.
Yeah.
And these are both pretty large regiments, and I knew. And I know it's still stupid, but I knew at the time when I asked the question that it was a dumb question to ask, but I didn't know why it was dumb. And the question I had, and I'd like to know what you think about this, is how could you miss when you're that close with that many people massed together? How do you miss? Smoke, I'm going to give you smoke, but give me other reasons.
I think one of the big things is the human factor of killing another human being.
That's my theory too. I'm with you. Go ahead.
I think that's a big driver, that they shot high.
Yeah.
Or, or they were just so, we can't even imagine, that's how they missed, but they didn't miss much. And if you look at, between the 24th Michigan and the 19th Indiana there, at the numbers difference between, if I remember, between the 26th North Carolina and 11th North Carolina, they had about 1,400 men in the ranks.
I think we counted 1,100.
And it's almost a 2-to-1 differential. I mean, the 19th had 288, and the 24th Michigan had like 4 or something.
Almost 5.
Almost
Yeah.
5. It's almost a 2-to-1.
Yeah. They should have been able to just chew them up.
And they basically did. I mean, 11th North Carolina
that's true.
flanked the 19th Indiana pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's a, that was, I listened to Larry's podcast. Is good. He's a good guy.
He's great. Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
And so, that fight, that portion of the fight was like, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I mean,
which is what's so devastating about the casualties that they took in those. I mean, that's horrific.
The 19th Indiana had, during the battle, had 27 total men killed, and we can identify on the afternoon of July 1st, at least 20 or 21 of them fell then.
Right then, yeah. I'm glad you said that about purposely missing, because that's kind of my feeling. I would think that by this point in the war, early on, you're full of piss and vinegar. The fervor that got you to join is still here, and this is your first chance up against the enemy, and you're going to try to kill. And maybe if you do, and you can confirm that you actually did it, then that gives you pause.
Yep.
And then from that moment on, you start shooting a little higher.
Yeah.
I would like to think that.
Well, I mean, there's a human element.
Yeah.
I don't think, a guy like Dale Dye can, he's been in combat. I haven't. Yeah. We don't know, but I think that's part of it right there too.
Well, he said that when he knew that he had killed his first man, he just like that changed him, and he thought he was doomed. Like, in other words, going to hell, and like it's just over. And he really grappled with it. And I believe that, and I think that seeing your friend have his face blown off is going to affect you.
Yep.
Almost having getting hit in the head with a bullet, but you can hear it whiz by your head. That's going to affect you. But the taking of another life, I think, probably affects us more than anything else.
I do,
because I think it goes against us, our nature.
I do a presentation on the 74th Ohio. It's a hometown regiment where I live, Company F, and Ira Owens again writes about the Battle of Jonesboro and Atlanta campaign, and within one battle, he saw and helped bury 2 of his neighbors. And then he said at the end he writes this in regimental history, and then basically says, and we packed up and on to Atlanta we went.
Yeah, and you just move on.
But in your head for the rest of your life. And the passage is more moving than what I've made it, but yeah, I mean.
Well, and just think of that, like, you don't even have time to grieve the loss of a friend or a relative. You just have to bury them, and then we move out.
Yep.
So, and then you're on to the next tragedy. And so there's never a moment to really take it all in and grieve for the person or do whatever you have to do, because you're on to the next one.
Well, Rufus Dawes is a perfect example. He made it all the way through to 64. When he finally got out, most of his friends had been wounded or killed. He never got a scratch. And that was a guilt factor with him. And then when he goes back and, his brother, Ephraim, had most of his jaw blown off at the Battle of Dallas. And then he, it's the passages in the service with the 6th Wisconsin. Then he writes about going to Cincinnati to the surgeon and holding Ephraim down while this guy rebuilds his jaw with wire. And then, you talk about soldier's heart. I think that Rufus Dawes probably is a prime example of just that.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, no, it's I don't know why I can't just be happy that I'm lucky in that I didn't experience that, and I'm not experiencing it now, and hopefully I'll get over the finish line without ever having to finish it or to experience it. But there's something in me that compels me to keep studying this stuff until I finally get it as if I had. And I don't know why.
I think I really do think that it's our effort, and sometimes it's it's not a real strong effort, but just to remember these guys and try to tell their story and tell it properly and how horrific this was, and to remember them. I mean, you can, for the American Civil War, 700,000 dead. You give that number out in a talk, and 700,000, the potential our country lost with those dead. But any country cemetery you drive by, you can stop and find a war casualty of that war.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Yep.
And so and it goes for all veterans. I mean, maybe some of our guilt for not serving drives us to make sure we tell the story the best way we can.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do.
I was too chicken to do it. And but I always admired that about people who could. A lot of it has to do with growing up watching John Wayne movies, and I'll tell you that. And my dad used to bring them home all the time from the video store. And you're a little kid, you think, you don't even think. It just looks awesome, right?
No,
it's heart pounding.
Growing up in the early '60s, and being a kid during the Centennial with all the muskets and toy guns you had, and you played war all the time. That's what you did.
Yep. That was instead of going out and playing basketball, that's what I was doing.
Even with the Vietnam War going on, I mean, we were all playing war. And then, I graduated from high school in '73, and I had a draft number. I should have graduated in '72, but I failed 6th grade. So that, a lot of guys that graduated in '72 did end up getting drafted at the very end. But,
yeah, got lucky.
What a time to be 18, 19 with all things going on in this country, which is something that gives me faith with all the turmoil we have. I think we're going to be okay. I mean,
I had that conversation this morning.
I think we're going to be okay. It just, this country is something special, and we've been through a lot of different things. Sometimes we forget how tough it's been.
Yep.
And our generation maybe hasn't had it very tough. So, I'll stand by the old flag every day.
No, I will too. And I this morning I was at Bantam Roasters grabbing a cup of coffee, and I had a conversation with an old neighbor of mine who was there. She works for the Park Service, and she was telling me about all the changes they're making and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, that sucks. And I said, but listen, we've been through worse. It won't last forever. And it could all be turned around before August.
Yes.
Because there are systems in place. There's a process. It feels overwhelming, and it's supposed to.
And it feels slow.
But
just, you watch it, and, and I do. And sometimes my sons are 37, and, they think I'm got my head buried in the sand. But I just say, just get up in the morning, take care of your family, go to work, do the best you can, be aware of what the news is, and stay the course. I'm thankful, for Gettysburg is a special place. I have a lot of people that say, you're over there so much, why don't you move there? And I always say, I will never move where I like to go.
Yes.
Because then you have to find someplace else to go. There's two places I love to go, Gettysburg and Key West. And the city politics and such in each town kind of mirror itself.
Yeah.
Because no matter who you are, if you're not from there, you're not from there.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's kind of interesting dynamic, but
and I would imagine both places know that they have something special that a lot of people want to be a part of.
Yep.
So they're particularly guarded, but the problem is it's like a small town geographically, but it's a big town in the sense that the world has its eyes on it and everybody's interested in it. Yet it's run by a bunch of yokels who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And they're not fit to pour pee out of a boot with instructions written on the heel, yet somehow they find themselves in these positions of power.
Well, I
hope you didn't serve on council in either one of these places and I'm insulting you.
Not at all. No, I'm just an old aviation guy. I'm not a political guy very much.
No.
Unless I got to be.
So many better things to do.
Oh, man. But like I said, my first trip to Gettysburg was in 1974 in a pup tent in a Volkswagen, camping with the Union drummer boy.
Wow.
3 days. There used to be the Billy Yank. Might have been Billy Yank and Johnny Reb Bar. It's on the corner of where the Blue and Gray restaurant is now.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they had Coors beer, which that was in the day that you couldn't get Coors east of the Mississippi. But I had still have a friend, who came with me. And to this day, he says, I will never go back to Gettysburg again.
Really?
Oh, he said, you drug me all over that battlefield. I don't care about it. I will never, we ran fence 60 years later almost, and he says, I'll never go back with you.
Wow.
I'm not going back with anybody.
It must have been a nightmare that you put him through.
Well, I mean, I've been studying it all my life, my first trip here, and let's get out in the battlefield and, pose with the cannons, and it was hilarious. It was a great trip, a great start.
You make a good point about not moving where you like to go. Although I have to say, Gettysburg is one of those places for me, and I have not for one day regretted moving here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because it's I was able to carve out a niche, so that's nice. I wasn't able to do that in New Jersey. It's too big, too many people, too many much more aggressive and unscrupulous people than I, and I couldn't compete with that. And but Gettysburg is I don't know how to explain it. It's a very unique place.
It's special.
It's very special, and I think some people. I think you have to, if you're going to move here, you have to come with the right mindset. I know people who came here twice as tourists and like, we love this place, we're moving here. And they did. And they're stuck here now 20 years later because they can't find gainful employment because there isn't much.
No.
Unless you work in history or agriculture.
And Key West is the exact same way.
Of course.
Exact same way.
Of course, because they're really one-trick ponies. They're tourist towns,
exactly.
So if you're not going to go and wait tables or work for a tour company or one of the nonprofits here, there's really not much for you to do. I mean, unless you're willing to drive at least a half hour to an hour for a good job somewhere else. And plenty of people do that. But I think the people that come here and they understand how it works and they're here for the history, I think they're the people who are always going to protect it or at least try.
Yep.
The locals who grew up here, on the whole, but of course not every one of them, don't appreciate what we have. And they actually resent it in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why you're seeing 1,000 houses or maybe, 100, 200 houses going up right behind Barlow's Knoll, right behind the Weiss Market there by Barlow's Knoll. And that's why you've got solar farms everywhere. That's why you've got a 3,000 unit Amblebrook over in Strabane Township. People in this area resent what we have. And they say, well, we need money and we need to expand the tax base. And I get that. But you also could have been smarter with how you handled the finances before.
You've got to. There's a balance between historical preservation and modern life and the drive for tax revenue and housing. They've done a really nice job basically here. You go look at Stones River, which is the first battlefield I ever went to in like 1964. It was out in the country, and now it's been swallowed up by Nashville.
Yeah.
And the view sheds are awful. But then you look at Franklin, and what they're doing down there with buying the properties and
Right.
expanding the out.
All it takes is
yeah.
a determined group of people who care.
Yeah. And, you know, I get real busy with Gettysburg, you know, especially as my wife and I, Amy, were really involved with the Adams County Historical Society and the new museum. And so I was over here a lot. But darn it, it's just like this morning. You know, I come into town, I want to meet you and do this, and I got to take some photographs later on this evening at the museum. And so I got all this stuff, you know, in my mind, and drive up from Winchester. And then I take a drive around the battlefield, and there's this amazing feeling of, yeah, I need this. It just calms me down a little bit.
Yes.
It takes the edge off. It just,
Uh-huh.
you know.
I know. I do know.
You know?
Yeah. I do the same feeling.
Yeah, you know, you're rushing. You got all this stuff to do, and it has to do with history and Gettysburg and writing, which I love. And then you just go. It's really neat.
Yeah.
It's a really neat feeling.
It is. I don't know why. I remember so I had lived here for 5 years, and then I moved back to Jersey for 8. And when I decided that I was going to move back down here, we were at some family function. It was like a baptism or something. And my uncle and my dad were talking. My dad told me this later. He said, I was talking to your Uncle Kevin, and I told him, you know, he said to me, so Matt's moving back to Gettysburg, huh? My dad goes, yeah. My uncle goes, you don't think that's weird? My dad goes, why? He loves it there. And he goes, yeah, like thousands of people died there. And my dad was telling me this as if to say, yeah, kooky uncle of yours, like, listen to what he said. And I go, no, he's right. It is weird. I said that, and that's why I have to go back. I'm drawn to the place because I have to. There's something pulling me there that I have to figure out in my life, and I don't know what it is. But like I need to figure out, why do I get peace out of a place of horror?
That's another great question.
You know, I've come here a lot, and it was about maybe 10 years ago, Amy and I came out, and I was doing one of Tim and Tim Smith battle walks with Gary Edelman, and she's big into our family history. Really has done a lot of research in my family I didn't know. So we get up in the morning, and I'm going to meet the group, and I said, "What are you going to do today?" And she said, "I'm going to go find the grave of your 6-time great-grandfather." I said, "What?" "Yeah, he's buried in Evergreen." He's a Ziegler.
Oh.
And he was buried in the Lutheran Seminary first, and they moved him after the war.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, "What? I've got a grandfather from Gettysburg?" He goes, "Yeah." And one of his sons was, one of his grandsons was like David Ziegler, owned Ziegler's Grove.
Wow.
And then she kept piling on. And then the Fonstocks. I found out that my great grandfather was Mahala Fonstock, who is a descendant of the Fonstocks.
Wow.
So I never knew this until she dug into it.
So you're drawn to this prior to the familial connection.
It's the best I got. I mean, so every time
Wow.
I go out and say hi to Grandpa, and, he's in that section of Evergreen with the flat stones, the ones they made.
Yeah.
And then she found the Hartzels up in Rinceville was another. Everybody's got a million great-great-great-grandfathers if you look at the pyramids. So
Sure.
it's not.
Yeah.
But, and I'm just going, I was just amazed. And when Tim Smith and Andrew were pitching the museum to Amy and I, and thanks to Jim Hessler for putting me in that position. That's another funny long story. Anyhow, Tim did the whole family genealogy for us, and they did a presentation, and it matched exactly what Amy had done. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because she had nailed it, and I had no absolute clue.
That's great.
So
would you donate money? Is that what they got you involved with?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I happen to have a foundation that you could donate some money to if you contact
Jim.
Jim there.
Jim will tell you that he loves spending my money. So we were in a position right when they started the build, the fundraising, and Amy thought that Andrew was a very, very nice young man. Not that I didn't. And they gave us a list of opportunities with the new building. So I'm looking for something. I thought like maybe the signs for the bathrooms, even upgrade them for put the braille things on them. I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, quit being so cheap. She said some other things too. We had just sold part of our company.
Okay.
So we had some cash. And so what we did is we ended up, the film you see before you go in caught in the crossfire, and no one sees our credits because they say, you may now enter caught in the crossfire.
Turns around and leaves.
It turns around and it's going, film made possible by Philip and Amy Spaugy, and they're going, but we did, that's what we sponsored was that film.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm pretty proud of that. And she was right. I was being cheap. And, but Jim, even before that, real quick, Jim was on the finance committee. This was right at it. So we he says, I want you to meet Andrew Dalton. So we go to lunch at the Pike, maybe. I can't remember. It makes no difference. So we have our lunch, and Andrew's introducing the concept for the new museum, and got ready to pay, and Andrew's credit card didn't work, and Jim's credit card didn't work, and it wasn't their fault. They had a bad connection credit card machine.
Okay.
There was some technology.
Yeah.
And Andrew was embarrassed, and Jim was just Jim, and the only one had any cash was the old man at the table.
Of course.
So I bought lunch, and Andrew says, I'll pay you back. And I said, no, I just bought my first year family membership in the Adams County Historical Society. We're smooth now, bud.
Yeah, I like that.
So, Jim, I've told that story a million times. Jim will tell you that he really likes spending my money. He does.
Well, good. I'll have him spend it at our foundation too.
Yeah. So
all right. So
what this has turned into.
It's just a conversation.
It's just two Civil War guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is okay too.
Which is fine.
And
we did talk about what we said we would.
We did.
And
what was that again?
I don't remember. Bear arms or something.
Yes, yeah.
And
you know where the Army of the Potomac kept their small arms, don't you?
Where?
In their short sleeves. Sorry. That's another one of Amy's jokes. I'll give her credit for that.
Well, the title of this is Small Arms at Gettysburg, and the description I wrote is, no, we're not talking about a T-Rex. Yeah. No, what I was saying was that we did give them what we said we would, and I assume that if there was more to tell, you would have told it, or that at least you find important. So then it was okay for us to go on our tangents.
I think, when I was
and this is the first time we ever sat and talked.
Exactly.
Yeah. I met you at the shoot 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah.
I've always heard about you. I know you by reputation long before I ever met you. And no, through Jim, so it's good. And so that's why I said I looked forward when I saw that you were on the schedule. I said, "Oh, that's awesome," because now I get to sit and actually talk with you. So I'm glad we did this.
I do a lot of. It's funny because Jim is obviously very busy here, but I always call it the Phil Spaugy Action Travel Western Division, and since March 10th, I've given presentations in Fort Wayne, Vandalia, Zanesville, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago, Milwaukee, Anderson, Indiana. I think that's all.
That's all. I've given in that time none. So
and Jim, I'm always telling him, I said there's a whole world out here, and it's all round table driven. Yeah. Great round tables, wonderful. A book could be written about doing round table presentations and the different people and dynamics that you meet, but they're all so heartfelt. But what's neat is this stuff and the writings that people do. People ask me why, I'm out of, my businesses are sold. I can sit on the beach. I'm doing it because at 71, I don't know how much longer that's just a fact. That's just and number two, you guys got like Eric and Rick and friends that passed. Well, you know what? I'm going to keep doing it for them too. Why not? You know?
Right.
What would they expect out of us?
And their work is going to, obviously it is there for people to see for generations to come or hear for generations to come. And they've left their mark. And I think, with Rick and, Pete Carmichael passed last year, almost a year ago, coming up on a year ago. And his wife told me, she goes, I saw, because right after he died, I got together as many videos I could find of him on the show, and I just put a compilation together. It's like 4 hours long. And it was not very easy to do that. I couldn't actually watch it to see if it was worth it. I was like, all right, where does it begin? Where does it end? And that was it. Because it hurt, even to this day.
It was good.
Hurts to hear his voice. Oh, you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay. So his wife said to me at the memorial service, she goes, I haven't been able to watch it yet, but I'm so glad that you did that, because one day when I can, I'll be able to go back and see and hear him, interacting and having a good time. And so I think my hope when I started this was that enough people would like it so that I could continue to do it and get as many of the people around here who I find interesting and I find entertaining and worth listening to and learning from, so I can get them on record. And then when they pass, because most of the people are older than me, and that screws with your head, by the way. When a lot of your associates are older than you and they're all dying, you think you're next.
Yeah.
But you're not. You got 30 years, But anyway, so it's an interesting time because, like Coddington, he's been dead for how long? As far as I know, we don't have any recordings of him or anything like that.
Go.
So we just have the book, which everybody snores at. It's like, oh, Coddington. But perhaps he was an interesting conversation.
People are so silly, though, about that.
They are.
That is...
The information is good.
That's a foundation book. You got,
Yeah.
And one of my mentors in Dayton, Ohio, was Bob Younger, who founded Morningside Bookstore.
Oh, yeah.
And was really one of the first reprinters, okay? And Bob was nothing short of a crusty old bastard. He called himself SOB, Sweet Old Bob. He was. But for whatever reason, when I was young and had no money, I'd go to the bookstore, and he liked me. And he made sure I had books. And then as I got older, I helped him kind of launch the concept of Gettysburg Magazine because, in his words, damn it, nobody thinks that this is going to be a thing. I'm not taking any advertising. I'm going to make this work. And he did. And Bob was Ed Bars's best friend.
Okay.
And Bob used to have Christmas parties in Dayton. He owned an old building that he had some linotype printing presses in because that was his trade before he started reprinting Civil War books. And I can remember going to a couple of them, and Ed would be there, and Jerry Russell of the founded the Civil War Roundtable movement, and they drinks a bit, and
Mr. Bojangles,
and they drinks a bit, and Ed, God love that man, but boy, when he would talk on anything, he's brilliant, but you haven't heard him till he's drank a bit.
Had a few.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, and Bob was just, a lot of people in the book trade had problems with him, but he was nothing but a great guy for me and helping me get along, have books and have that sort of thing. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I have met. I was saying this to my friend the other day. Growing up in New Jersey, there's 500,000 people for every square foot of the state, right?
Yeah.
And I've never met more interesting people than I've met here.
Oh.
This place has the most interesting people that just blow through, because they're tourists. The people who work and live here are interesting, good or bad. It's all interesting. Yeah. And it all makes life exciting and worth living. You have a lot of big city personalities in a small town here. And that's what I love about it. And that's why I love doing this, because right now, not many people may care, and this show may go unnoticed or something, but someday there will be someone who will take a backwards glance and find this stuff and go, look at all these interesting people.
Yeah, listen to them talk.
That one's dead. That one's dead.
Oh, I know.
That's what I do when I watch an old movie.
Oh, God. And especially in NSSA, because of the age demographic there, we lose. It's just as amazing the amount of people that every year at opening ceremonies on Sunday, they call a roll of those who passed. And it just seems, and them. I mean, after 40 plus years, these are people and whether they're people that are from your part of the country or they're people that you would see twice a year at nationals and you would really be excited just to see and spend some time with them there. But it's not easy, man. Like Betty Davis said, growing old's not for wimps, man.
No,
it's
isn't.
not. So
and that's why I think we have to get more young people involved. That's actually that card I gave you. Like one of the things we want to do with that is find ways to reach younger people with this stuff in ways that they're going to respond to. The way I do this show, the way everybody does whatever their social media is very. It's the 20th century on social media or on YouTube or whatever. And the kids in their teens and 20s today, they may be interested in history, but we're not speaking their language. And my worry is that when I either retire or die, if I can keep this going until that age, my worry is that when I retire and I stop working, this dies and goes away. Because I don't see this. I hope my delusion might be that this isn't anything to do with me. It's something that someone else can come in and take over for a younger generation and modernize it.
I hope so too.
I do. I really do, because I think there needs to be that there, because it's an old leaning group of people.
Yes, it is.
And they're not going to be around forever. And when they go, that's the other thing too. When they go, a lot of the money goes to help with organizations that are nonprofits. And so,
and you lose leadership. And that's the other thing.
You do, and institutional knowledge and all these other things that go along with it. And so my thing, and I'm middle-aged, I'm not old yet. I'm like the age of the parents of the people I'm trying to reach, but I never had my own kids, so I don't know how they think, so we got to recruit like college kids or whatever to do this. But I'm very worried that, and I hear a lot of people who are older than I am lamenting that, they don't teach history anymore. The kids aren't interested in history anymore. And I go, well, you spend your money where you want to, but keep putting your money in things that aren't effectively reaching them. And that's going to continue. But if you try to look to what the future is and you support the people who are riding that wave, there might actually be a chance where you would not have anything to complain about.
And that's what I like about our participation with Adams County Historical Society. And I know they're going to be on next week, but Dana Schoaf and Melissa and what they are working real hard down in Frederick on that museum.
Yep.
Which is cool.
Yep.
Really, I mean, they're two of the best people that,
they are.
Really are. Dana's amazing. So
he's great. I love Dana.
Yeah, and Melissa too.
Very funny.
Yep. He's got a wonderful property down east of South Mountain, this old 1780s house. And,
oh, really?
Oh, it's just he's continually restoring.
Really?
He'll tell you it's just what did he say today? Not a junk, but it's just trash or something. I'm glad I've stayed there before. It's not. It's he's a really interesting guy, and as is Melissa.
Yeah.
Too, so.
No, it's a great group of people, and I think it's I think there are plenty of people who are doing things the right way, and they get it. And I don't know. I worry for the future, but I also don't worry for the future. In certain circumstances, I do, and some I don't.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you follow the Civil War Digital Digest.
Yeah, I'm friends with
Will Eicher.
Yeah.
What a great guy he is.
He's a fantastic guy.
Did 2 episods last month for him. One on Miles Greenwood of Ohio and his rifled musket, and another one on the Color Guard of the 19th at Gettysburg, which he's going to drop before the battle anniversary. But I'll be back out for 5 days to work at the museum with the artillery piece and do whatever Andrew would like me to work with him.
Yeah, good. I think that I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation here.
This has been, this could have really happened in a bar, easy.
Yeah. Well, and we even have the alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
Yeah. The one thing about here isn't there isn't loud music and loud voices in the background making me go, what?
And
what?
Guys coming out behind you and giving you rabbit ears.
Yeah, right. No, it was. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'd love to have you on to talk about more stuff. If whatever the hell we could do, what would be great? You, me, and Jim talking a Little Bighorn episode.
I would love that because we've had some adventures out there that are worth telling, and yet I'll tell you, and you know this about Jim, but it just never fails to impress me is his preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I drive, we usually stay up in Billings, and when I drive him, it takes an hour and 15 to get down Little Bighorn. He spends the whole time prepping.
While you're driving?
The whole time prepping. The whole time prepping. I mean, just, his...
I think that's a talent.
He's a pro.
I'm not a prepper. I can't... for this, I have, what is it?
Well, that's why when you sent me the email, I had to say, well, review all the ORs and the bachelor paper.
Yeah.
It's
like, who's this guy?
No.
No, but I what is the book I have? It's like a Gettysburg Companion or the big, thick, huge coffee table book that's got everything you need to know, like shows you formations and how they, where everybody is. And it also has a section on the firearms. And I go, well, this is good enough, and so I peruse that, And that was about all the prep that I was able to do.
But your job is to sit there and pitch.
Correct.
And let your guest, and then the back and forth is where, that's why on a Civil War roundtable presentation, I love the question and answers more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because that makes you never know what you know.
Until somebody asks.
You never know what you know. And so this has been a great, I've had a very enjoyable time. And
well, let's do it again with Jim someday.
I get him.
Actually, you know what? I don't know if you'll be here, but I think he is coming on to talk about, the subject is, did Hazel Grove influence Sickles' decision to move to the Emmitsburg Road? Yeah, Gettysburg. And that's going to be live on Tuesday, June 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're in town and you want to join him.
But he and I are supposed to do, for Adams County during the battle anniversary, a thing on the Sherfy Farm and the Rogers Farm and the Klingel Farm, like the farms of Emmitsburg Road. So tonight we're going to meet. I need to get, he can do Sherfy Farm in his sleep. His prep on that is, even though he'll prep, but I need to work a little bit more on the Rogers Farm piece a little bit, even though she's buried in Troy, Ohio, about 15 miles from
Oh, really?
Home. Yeah, she married a slider.
Mm-hmm.
And Josephine Miller, Rogers. Okay, she married a slider, and they left Gettysburg like in the fall of '63, and went to Miami County, Ohio, and because this was not a good place to live.
Right? Why would you want to live there?
And so she lived out the rest of her life there, and the veterans would have her come back and make bread, and the whole story.
Yeah, yeah.
Wayne Motz and I did a video at her grave this spring when he was out to talk at a roundtable in Indianapolis. Came through. The foundation they haven't used it yet.
Put it out, yeah.
And who knows if they will? I don't care. But we had a good time. I had a good time taking Wayne and Warren to the grave, and they're just. He's another great guy too.
Wayne.
Oh man,
yeah, everybody loves Wayne.
And his dad, Warren.
Yeah, I've never met his dad.
Oh, geez, at 80-some years old. That is a man you cannot keep up with. And he's got his own military museum, the Motz Military Museum.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Just Google it up and look at it's just in Groveport, Ohio, just south of Columbus. That's your homework assignment. I want you to, because that would be a great Addressing Gettysburg, is Wayne and Warren talking.
I would love to do that. What is it, the Motz Military Museum?
Motz Military Museum. You're not going to believe what this man has put together. And he is one of the most energetic, kind, wonderful men I've ever known in my life. He will outrun you on the Little Bighorn battlefield in a minute.
Really?
Amazing man.
I will look into that.
Yeah,
I'll ask Wayne if he wants to do that.
Yeah, ask him.
So his dad doesn't live out here?
No, he lives in Ohio.
Okay. But I'm sure he comes out a lot.
He does.
Yeah.
And Wayne goes home. Wayne was at the Ohio Civil War show a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
They were out, But Warren's wonderful. He's just two great guys.
Well, Phil, I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much for coming and doing this.
No problem, brother.
I appreciated the tangents we went on. I have a lot of fun doing that.
You want to take like a bet on how many people we put to sleep this afternoon? Because I'm guessing
we've it's live only to our patrons at the moment, and it's only a couple. It's like one tier of the patrons, so we've kind of maintained 5, which is actually good for a weekday. On Monday, that's pretty good.
I envision cars pulling over into rest stops, guys kicking back, saying these guys need to really.
It could be that we kept those 5 because they ran off the road.
It could be exactly. It's been great. I have enjoyed it. These are the sorts of podcasts and things I like to do where you've got a subject, but at the same time, you can just go.
I find that when we stray from the subject, as long as we give them enough, when we stray from the subject, people actually like it because they get to see you guys as people and not author or guide or whatever. Like they actually see the 3 dimensions, you know?
I've been privileged to work with a lot of great Civil War people, obviously Eric and Jim. But one of the absolute best is Lance Hurtigan, who has written so many Iron Brigade books.
Yeah, okay.
And Lance is 84 now and doesn't get around real well. He lives in Wisconsin. And I've worked with him on several of his books. And he always will be on the phone, we'll be talking. And at the end, he closes like this. He always says, you know what? We've had more fun this afternoon than anybody, haven't we? And we have. And so have we.
I like that. We're going to leave it right there.
Yep,
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Yep.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye.
That was great. I'm gonna steal that. That's gonna be my line.